And let's see here. And we'll start the slide presentation we have. Oops, should have gone. Okay, here we go. All right. Everybody, can everybody hear us? Anybody cannot hear us or see? Let us know. But yeah, we thought, since we're talking about Spain, we thought we'd start with this, one of our favorite cartoons that Janice found a little while ago, 2 milk cartons, looking at this one, soy milk, he must be Spanish, which if you know some Spanish, soy means I am in Spanish. So that's our contribution to starting with some humor. But Spain is obviously our favorite country to talk about. So we're going to talk about some visits that we've had to Spain. And we're going to focus mostly on Spain just before Christmas, in La Navidad, Christmas times. We've been to Spain 8 times, once to Barcelona, once to Valencia, 3 times to Madrid, 3 times to Malaga on the south coast, Costa del Sol. And we use these cities as kind of an operating base and take day trips around the area. For example, Malaga. Malaga is so close to beautiful places, Cordoba, Sevilla, Granada. So we take day trips and we make all the arrangements ourselves. For the day trips, we usually go with some tour group. It's just easier. Why go to Spain before Christmas? Well, it's just European cities are just really beautiful before Christmas. The beautiful decorations. The tourists are mostly gone, so you get almost private tours. You want to do day trips, tapas, museums. There's just that holiday mood and energy. Christmas markets, some are better than others. Roasted chestnuts, the food is great. You're along the Mediterranean, the temperatures are very mild, and even in Madrid, it's about like what Knoxville is, maybe a little colder than Texas, but for us in Knoxville, it's about the same. And maybe a little cheaper prices on some things anyway. So we're going to talk about places that most people would not go, especially if you're going on a tour group. So we're not going to talk about the Alhambra Palace or the Prado or Sagrada Familia, but rather kind of smaller things in Spain, but are still very, very enjoyable. I mean, there's just lots and lots of beautiful things, interesting things to see in Spain, and also people. It's, travel is much of travel is just about the people that you meet. Not going to make this a history lesson, but just a couple of slides about the history of Spain. And first of all, just the flag of Spain. There's a lot of symbolism in the flag of Spain. And you can find this on various sites, but the red symbolizes the blood of the king on a gold shield. And in the center, there's the 2 pillars are the pillars of Hercules, which are, of course, the Rock of Gibraltar. And then over on the African side, and nobody's really quite sure, but there's 2 mountains on the African side that could be the other rock, but there's not one that really is dominant. One is in Morocco, one is in Spain. So it's possible that the pillars of Hercules are no longer in Spain. And then the crown on the top is the royalty, and then the shield. There's the various kingdoms of Spain: Leon, Castile, etc. In the middle is the fleur de lis, which represents the Bourbon kings of Spain. Before we knew much about Spain, we just assumed Spanish is the native language of everybody. That's not true. And I don't want to go deep into, again, the history and culture, at least the language. But to us, it's interesting that no, only 74% of the people of Spain, the native language is Spanish. So that's this green region here in the northwest. You got Gallego, which is more related to Portuguese. Eastern side, you have Catalan, 17% of people, their native language really is Catalan, and about 2% Basque. And you notice that the languages run north and south. Why do the languages run north and south? It's not because of gravity, okay? Rather, it's the history, and this will be the last history side, well, second to the last history side. No, I guess this last one. But in 720, most of Spain, as you know, was under the control of the Moors and the Muslims, and in the north because of the mountainous areas, that's where the residual Christian kingdoms were. But over time, these Christian kingdoms gradually pushed south, reconquering the famous Reconquista, until, for example, in 1120, half of Spain has been reconquered by the Christian kingdoms. And as they conquered south, the language went with them. So Spanish went south with Castile and Leon and Galicia, and Portugal pushed south, etc. Yeah. So just start talking a little bit about what we've enjoyed in Spain just before Christmas. The Christmas lights and energy are just really beautiful. Again, we're going to start with Malaga and a little bit about Valencia. But Malaga and these, as you know, the European historical, the centers of European cities are often many times very pedestrian friendly. So Malaga, especially Malaga is very touristy, and the center of the city there is not much traffic. You have to live there or taxis, so it's very pedestrian friendly. And the main street through Malaga is Larios Street. And they really put on a spectacular light show. And this street is about half mile long. And let me show a clip here. And thousands of people, they show this light show on the half hours, and literally thousands of people go there, and they all have their cell phones out taking pictures. So it's kind of a cultural experience where everybody have their cell phones up. But let me try to show a little bit of a clip here. So let's stop sharing that and share this. And oops, okay, oops, I messed that up here. So stop sharing this, and we'll share different one. And we need to, yeah, share computer sound. And there it is. Okay, let's get this going. Oops. Yeah, I should have cut that off here. Ah, rats. Okay, shouldn't have attempted this. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so let's go back to the slide presentation here. There we go. Is it this one? Okay, there we go. Okay, everybody back on the screen. Everybody seeing the screen, the PowerPoint presentation? Yeah, okay, thanks. So that's Malaga. And again, it's really spectacular. The tourists all love it. The locals kind of hate it.
Imagine having an apartment on the second floor all the way down for half a mile. It's loud.
Yeah. Malaga, all the major cities will have nice Christmas lights. So you'll see lots of Christmas trees, lighted Christmas trees. The streets are lighted. This is the view from our apartment that we rented for a while in Malaga. Santa Claus is big. If you've been in Europe and Christmas, Santa Claus is big everywhere. It's not just a Northern Europe kind of thing. So just an interesting little window with Santa Claus on a Vespa. And you just walk around the city and you find all kinds of just very interesting little things. We were walking by the major cathedral in Malaga, and we saw this line of people and wondering, what are they there for? Because they're waiting to get into something. So we were at a bookstore and asking them, and they said that there's a lot of beautiful dioramas in this church with biblical scenes, and they're just really gorgeous. And they're about 4 feet or so in size, and they have about 20 of these. And just was really interesting to us to see the detail that they put into these dioramas. But the point is that you just find all kinds of interesting little things if you get off the tour bus. Valencia, lots of interesting, beautiful Christmas displays. This is a view from our hotel. I had an ice rink in Valencia. Valencia, the name Valencia comes from, it was a Roman fortress at one time, and the Roman soldiers would retire there. And so Valiente, the valiant ones, that's hence the name for Valencia. Madrid, again, Madrid has a lot of these lighted Christmas trees. This is in the Puerta del Sol, the main center of the city, more or less. And all the streets in the center have very, very interesting, nice lights. And at Christmas time, especially all the weekends, it gets very busy with pedestrians because it's very pedestrian only in the center. You have to have a permit to drive your car down there. And if the streets get so busy Friday and Saturday nights that the police actually block off the streets so that some of the streets are one way only. And if you're walking, and if you try to walk the other way, the police will stop you and say, no, you got to go the other way. And more lights in Madrid. One Christmas market, this may be one of the cheaper ones, but they had another one that was much nicer. Went to this little town called Alcalá de Henares, where Cervantes was born, about 30 miles by train northeast of Madrid. Again, nice Christmas Ferris wheel. Losing my voice
already.
Santa Claus made an appearance, and now it's Janice's turn anyway.
Well, he gets a drink of water. Known as El Gordo, the Spanish lottery is one of the oldest continuing lotteries in the world. It was established in 1812 by the Habsburg King Carlos III. And one legend of the lottery is Doña Manuelita. She was, in 1904, at the age of 25, she started selling lottery tickets. She opened a little, I think she sold them on the street and then opened a little store to sell tickets. In her lifetime, 26 lottery winners bought tickets. She won about 4 or 5, but 26 other people won lottery tickets because they bought it from her, which, started this urban legend that you should buy your tickets from Doña Manuelita. So on December 22nd, or getting close to there, the line to buy at this particular place is over 100 people. There it goes, and it goes around the block and around the block and again, and the wait can take up to 3 hours. It's very lucky to buy your tickets from her. Excuse me, now I'm losing my voice. The drawing takes place at the Teatro Real, the Royal Theater, on December 22nd. And it's broadcast on television, on radio, it's on the web. You can watch all day long, them draw numbers and see if it's your number. And the numbers are sung by school children from Segovia. I don't know why they sing them, but they started doing that, and it's just really a big deal. These are tables on the lower right. Tables are set up for the media coverage that's going to happen in a few days after we were there. Excuse me. Our favorite.
Food and wine, it's wonderful in Spain. My voice hasn't come back.
Oh no, okay. Tapas tours are really great because it's $50 to $80 per person, which seems like a lot, but you're going to go to 3 or 4 bars. You're going to get some wine or some cider, or if you want soft drinks, you can have that and lots of food because you're going to drink a lot of wine. Again, we went on one tapas tour, there were 6 glasses of wine, so you have to pace yourself. And I don't have much capacity, so that's an important rule. It's a great way to meet people. We've met people from all over the world and from Spain. And it usually includes a walking tour. So not only the food and drink, but you get a history lesson and a cultural lesson as well. It's great.
So this is go ahead.
Okay. This is one of the tours we took just December 2019. So that's how recently we were there. I can't remember, there were about 10 of us there or 8 of us there. There were 2 couples from Mexico City, actually, and a couple couples from the other couples from the United States. Our Spanish is good enough that we could make casual conversation. I think we went to, well, this is, we're waiting outside the bar. I don't know why, but this is Cervantes. He stayed there, lived there for a while too. It's like George Washington. Cervantes lived here for a while. The next one is a cideria, or a cider. They specialize in cider, and it's kind of a blurry picture, but we had a great time there as well. Is there not? Yeah.
We have a friend that she's always after us to take pictures of food, and we never remember to. We always get involved in conversation and food, so it came a little bit late in the meal, but we had some Spanish tortilla, and we probably had some patatas bravas, and wine and good conversation. This guy, you can't see his head maybe, but this guy was, again, meet interesting people. He was on his way to MIT in the next semester to start a degree in chemical engineering. And then these people you can't see very well, but they are the couples from Mexico. And we talked with them, and they had just elected their new president, Andre Manuel Lopez Obrador, who is not all that popular in Mexico. So we're joking about, this is before our current president. So we're joking about, can we trade presidents?
We decided not.
Yeah. And then this is a fellow, there's a traditional way of pouring the cider. So this is a fellow showing how to hold the bottle way up high and pour it like this. And he offered to let a couple people try it. They tried it with various success with getting maybe more cider on the floor than, but the bars, these tapas bars are just really beautiful, most of them. And it's traditional in tapas bars to just throw your garbage on the floor. So you will see that it's not necessarily a bad thing. This is just another tapas bar that we went to. We went to about 3 or so. We also took an opportunity when we were in Valencia before Christmas to do a cooking class, a paella cooking class. And there was just 2 of us this time. We had our chefs, Pedro and Rafa. They retired from IT, information technology. This is our guide, Vicky, who took us out there. So we're out in the country, and they showed us a traditional way to make paella. And so Valencian orange field.
Yeah, this is on the roof of the place where they were cooking the meal. It's just orange groves as far as you can see.
There's the product. Many people, we thought that paella was a seafood dish, but originally it was the food of the campesinos, the farm workers, and so they used whatever meat was available, and it was generally rabbit, maybe chicken. And so I think this was rabbit. We made some paella once trying to use rabbit using that recipe, and there's a reason for using chicken. Rabbit is really there's not all as much meat as on chicken. And traditional, well, not traditional, but this is the kind of burner that you'll find in Spain. You can order from Amazon. We don't have one. We also did we've done several winery tours because they're fun. This is near Madrid, and Spain has got a lot of good wine, various wine regions. So we took a tour. We started with at a former royal winery. It went out of business, but then it was bought out by a private firm and it's back in business. And it's caves that are built into the side of a hill. The guide or the worker there showed us a right way to prune vines. And then we went inside, and there's just a whole lot of caves. This is the model for our wine cellar when we get time to build it. And there's actually a dinner table set up, a banquet table set up within the winery. You see all the casks. This is right after Pete Buttigieg had got into trouble with a fundraising for $900 bottles of wine, and we kind of kidded that. Well, I wonder if Pete is here. And yeah, wine bottles. This is just the bottling and labeling room, and it's just so interesting the people that you meet. This is our guide, Rodrigo. Oops. And then these people, you never guess who these people were. This person here works in Washington, D.C., works with nonprofits. This person here works for the American Embassy, State Department, the embassy in Cairo, Egypt. This person is a lawyer, works in Chicago. At the time, she was representing Johnson & Johnson in their lawsuit over the talcum powder. And this person works in, computers, website, online things who try to schedule real estate showings. And this is the dad of these 2 girls that worked for decades in heavy construction, concrete work to try to get his girls a good education. So it's just interesting. And this is Janice here. But the wine is so good, and oftentimes you always have some wine and some chorizo or something like that. Sometimes something more hefty like Spanish tortilla. But it's just interesting, and we're not wine experts, but our guide worked in the wine industry for many years, and then decided he wanted to be more on the tourist guide side. But we appreciated him because he said that what he doesn't like these days is that people are now somewhat intimidated with wine, because if you don't know very much, you feel intimidated to try it and talk about it, etc. This is, let Janice talk about this. This is her favorite winery.
My favorite human interest story too, of winery. In May 2013, we took a wine tour, and then we stopped at 3 bodegas to just because. And our guide was named Ismail, not Ishmael. There's no H. It's Ismail. The wine and food was great, and well, that was our tapas tour with him. And after we sat and talked with him for a while, just about life in Spain and being a guide and what he wanted to do, and he wanted to get into etiology or winemaking. And so we went on this wine tour the next couple days and he was our guide again. He stood here. This took us here. This is called the bodega. I've already forgotten. Anyway, Solera Bodega. It's over 200 years old and it's owned by Consuelo Herrera, and she was so interesting to talk to. She is currently the owner. She's the 4th generation of her family in 200 years to be the owner of this, and she introduced the production of olive oil and improved the quality of the wine that they produced. It was so interesting to stay and talk with her. In December of 2019, we went on a winery tour again with Rodrigo, and well, with Rodrigo, this was in 2013. And we mentioned we wanted to go on this tour because he went again to the Solera Bodega. And I said, you know, we loved the tour guide we had before named Ismail. Is he still around? He goes, yeah, I think he's around. Suddenly somebody comes out of the bodega. It's Ishmael. He's co-owner with Consuela of the Solera Bodega now. So he got his wish to become an enologist, and he was very sweet to say he remembered who we were. I'm not sure, but I appreciated that he said that. These are the casks at the Solera Bodega. Now I'm losing my voice. They're used in the past for fermentation, but they're starting to use them again because for some of the wines, they feel the taste is better than the newer concrete or stainless steel casks that they have been using.
And they're tall. This person would be about that tall.
Yeah, so they're really big. On the side of the cask, this one says 243, and it has an @ sign, but in Spain it's called an arroba. And an arroba is, it usually is a volume thing, but it's also for liquid measurements as well. So this cask holds 243 arrobas. And in the lower left, you can see it's kind of a jug sort of jar thing. That's an arroba. So that's the size that you get. In the old days, if you brought your arroba to the bodega, they'd fill it up for you. That's not really done anymore, but Ishmael says there are 3 old guys in the city that they live in, and they will bring their arroba to the bodega, and Ishmael will fill them up because it's just a nice thing to do. That's Ishmael. He got taller than I remembered he was.
Actually, he married a American from North Carolina, and they lived in North Carolina for a while, had a daughter that was born there, and then they moved back to Spain. That's how we found out that the one woman that we pointed out worked in the Egyptian embassy, because I asked Ismail, how does a citizenship work for your daughter? And the woman that worked for the Egyptian embassy immediately said, well, when she gets to be 18 years old, she'll have to decide what citizenship she wants. And I looked at her and said, how in the world do you know that? She said, well, that's because I work at the Egyptian embassy, or the American embassy in Cairo, Egypt.
It might come up. The third bodega, I don't remember much about, but we did go see 3. That might have been because I'd already had 4 glasses of wine by then. I don't know. It's all delicious and beautiful, and it was a lovely thing, but that's what we drank.
And then on the way between the second and third winery, we got behind this truck. And in this dump truck, you see these are grapevines. And just, you know, again, a bit of culture, this way things are, is that the EU rules have made it difficult for the wineries around Madrid and Spain, the small ones, to really make a living. So more and more of these small wineries are ripping up the grapevines and planting something else that they can make a better profit on. So it's kind of sad.
And chocolate, one of our favorites also. This is the Chocolateria de San Ginés, and it's in central Madrid. And it has served primarily churros and hot chocolate, very thick hot chocolate since 1894. it's very popular, and there's usually a line, but there's a lot of churrerias in Madrid and Spain, so you won't really go without. This particular chocolateria was featured by Rick Steves when he did his Madrid video, so he's a big fan of churros. They're fried dough and they're deep fried, so how can that be bad? And the hot chocolate is very dark and very thick and very warm, and you dip your churros in there, and it's just a wonderful thing. Now, we don't only go to Spain to eat churros. They also have pastry. And it's hard in Knoxville to get European pastry, so we have to go to Europe or Iowa. I'm not sure which is easier. There's we know quite a few bakeries all across of Europe. Spain in particular kind of focuses a lot of their pastry on religious holidays. So it's interesting to try new and different things as well.
There's just so many pastry bakeries. You walk out the hotel room and there's within a half mile, there's a half dozen or so good bakeries.
We usually get, many times for just €1 or $2, we can get a savory pastry, ham and cheese and spinach, and that's our lunch or supper for a very low price.
When we were in Alcalá de Henares, we ran across this store selling, well, they sell marijuana paraphernalia. In Spain, it's the marijuana laws are complex. If you're a citizen of Spain, you can grow and use marijuana for your own use. You can't sell it. If you grow marijuana, it has to be, it can't be viewed by the public. If you're a foreigner, no, you can't do that. You can get in trouble for doing that. There are some clubs now, marijuana clubs, and they're kind of on the borderline of legal. So it's interesting. We're having a sale, rebajas.
Roasted chestnut. How can you go wrong? We first had roasted chestnuts in Rome. I mean, you always hear about it. That's what Dickens talked about. You're going to have roasted chestnuts and famous songs. They were so good. And in Spain at Christmas time, in Madrid, well, all the cities we've been in, every other corner has a chestnut roasting person, and they'll sell you for €1 or $2 a little paper bag full of chestnuts, and they're warm and delicious. And you have to be careful how you eat them because you're going to get ash all over yourself. They really are roasted right there on the spot. So nice and very popular.
One of the interesting little things we did in Madrid is there's almost all the nunneries in convents in Spain, the nuns will make some sort of food item, usually a cookie, maybe something else. And so in Madrid, there is a nunnery that, and the nuns are cloistered. They don't go out in public and you can't see them, but they make these wonderful cookies. And it's kind of hard to find a place, but you go there and you see it's just this door and that's it. And there's a little sign on the side and a buzzer that you push. And when you do that, then somebody eventually will push another electronic, unlock the door electronically and say, come in. And then you wind your way down some halls, there's some signs, and you find yourself ultimately in this dark hallway. And there's this door that they open up at I don't know what time. And in that door, there's kind of a lazy Susan, a wooden revolving thing, and it has partitions so that you can, 3 partitions so that you can never see inside, they can never see you. But there's a menu on the side of what cookies they have and the price. And so you just tell them, what do you want? And then they will put the cookies on the turntable and turn it around and tell you how much it is. So you put your money down there. They will make change. And this is the cookies we bought. It was kind of a lemon shortbread cookies, pretty good, not bad. So it's kind of an in thing to do for tourists.
Other food. Again, we've never had bad food in Spain. In the upper right-hand corner is a traditional sandwich from Salamanca called hornazo, and it's a pastry filled with meat and cheese, and it's really good, and it's huge. I think 2 of us could not eat one portion. In the upper left is a pizza we had in Madrid. It's pear and soft cheese. And on vacation, it's hard to get a nice green vegetable sometimes. So we just said, do you have any kind of leafy green vegetable you could put on there? And they just threw some fresh spinach on it. It was really good. In the lower left is what we had in a city called Cuenca. On a tour, we went there. It's roasted lamb with mashed potatoes and some kind of tomato salsa kind of thing. It was so good and so rich. And in the lower right is our new favorite, pimientos de Padron. They're grown originally in Galicia. I'm pretty sure if you're in Madrid, you don't, maybe you do get all your foodstuffs from Galicia. They're very sweet, very mild pepper. Occasionally there might be one that's a little spicy, but they are so good and so sweet. And they're roasted and then salt put on top. And we're trying to think about growing them here sometime. We'll get more information, I hope, someday.
This is actually at a tapas bar that catered more for tourists, but it's actually pretty good.
I had those.
And am I talking about these? Okay, well, this is our, when we were in Cuenca on a day trip, and again, it's Christmas time, so there's only 4 of us, and this couple, a delightful couple, Carmen and Carmelo they were from Sevilla, or Seville, if you will. And they were just lovely to talk with. And so we were having our lunch in just so much food in this little restaurant in Cuenca. So it was just fun to talk with them. This is the day that we actually went to up into the mountains, and it was snowing up in the mountains. It does snow in Spain. In fact, they had a huge snowstorm here this last winter. But it does snow, and these people from Sevilla, they had never seen snow in their entire life.
They were so excited. It was cold too. Okay.
A few more sites off the normal tourist track. Several cities on the Iberian Peninsula: Lisbon, Madrid, Barcelona, have really, really nice naval museums. I mean, these countries have long naval traditions, and well, this one was free. The one in Madrid was free. You just have to show your passport, go through a metal detector. But it was just so impressive. They have just dozens or hundreds of these wooden ship models. They're several feet long, and just the craftsmanship is just spectacular. They have it's all over the place in there, plus all their other historical documents, maps, and navigational items. So it's just, again, just kind of fascinating. And interestingly, all at this time, and I don't know if they've changed since we were there 3 years ago or so, 5 years ago, but all the signs explaining what things were just in Spanish, except for this one ship, this one model of the USS Maine. And they had labels, descriptions in French, English, German, Italian, Japanese, to explain to the whole world that Spain did not sink that ship.
There. And there's a diagram to show. Okay. Get my right paper. This is a great look. You had a little hairnet too, because the underside was kind of prickly. We spent a day at a nice, lovely day at Camino del Rey, which means the King's Little Path. Everybody got a helmet, and a little bit later, our tour guide came and squished it down on my head. So I was super secure. This is what it is. It is a pathway on the side of the gorge. It was originally built in 1901 and finished in 1905 to provide a way for workers who are working on the hydroelectric plants to get back and forth and get stuff. You can see the original one down below where we're standing. Several people died on that, and they finally closed it and started redoing it again in 2011 and through 2014. We were there in 2018, so all safe and secure, although I noticed that everybody wore a white helmet except the guides, who had a green helmet. And I think that had, special secret powers. That's what I think. Gorgeous gorge. There was a little girl along with our tour group who kept saying, "There are people over there. There are people over there." And none of us could figure out what she was talking about until we got closer. There are 2 people climbing the cliff face of the gorge along here. And I'll give you a second to think about it and see if you can see them, because without that little girl and her good eyesight, I don't think we would have ever found them. Is the next one? There they are. There's a guy right there. And we think that the higher up guy is the maybe instructor. Not for everybody.
Well, our last trip to Madrid, which was a year and a half ago, about the last thing we did that evening before we left was we did a Spanish Inquisition and ghost story tour, which was a lot of fun. And our guide here, Elizabeth, she's actually British, but she went on holiday about 25 years ago to Spain, and she met a Spanish guy, and in a week they fell in love, and in a week they got married, and it stuck because they've been married for 25 years. And so she, at the end of the week, she called back to her mother in England and told her, by the way, Mom, I'm getting married and I'm going to stay here. I'm not coming back to England. And her mom said, well, I guess I better have a cup of tea. But she's actually an actress and she does some producing, and she was just a lot of fun. She's very, very articulate and acted things out on the tour. So we visited several places. It was an interesting sign. You see various things. This is a sign that's essentially, well, se prohíbe hacer aguas bajo la multa correspondiente, which means no urinating here under penalty of fine.
So,
And in the olden days, most people couldn't read. So many of the street signs would have a picture to let people know what street it is, so they can tell what street it is. So there's Calle del Codo, Codo is elbow, and so they have a picture of an elbow. Interesting history. We also spent some time, we took a day trip up into the mountains just west of Spain. It's a long way, almost all the way to Valencia. But yeah, Spain is a very mountainous country, and the mountains can get very high. So we went to this national park, and part of it is what's called a Ciudad Encantada, the Enchanted City, which is a karst topography, limestone topography that's been eroded over the years. So you find all these very interesting formations. And it was snowing and it was cold because it was December. But it's about a mile hike through there, and you see again, just lots of interesting formations. This one is just a field of just bare rock called the Mar de Piedra, Sea of Stone, and then this one is the battle between the elephant and the crocodile. You can decide which one is which. And a part of that trip, we went to this city called Cuenca, which again is a very historical city. It's the old city is built on the side of a hill, so very sheer cliffs. Some of the buildings actually extend over. And again, it's just fun to go there and see what's going on. This is where we were there with Carmen and Caramela. That's where they saw the snow. Some other things just to hit some other highlights. It's white villages. Southern Spain, very famous for its white villages. This is a village. This is not this is in the May, so not part of Christmas, but we want to throw this in. Just very beautiful white villages. This is a village of Frigiliana, it's on the coast. Yeah, very tourist. Well, it is tourists. So yeah. Ronda, many people have gone to Ronda. It's up in the mountains. It's north of Malaga. Again, it was one of the last bastions of the Moors that took a long time to conquer, to besiege it and for it to fall. But it's built over the city's in two parts. It's spanned by this bridge spans this very deep chasm. This building over here is actually run by the state. It's called the Parador, which is actually kind of like a hotel run by the state. We've never stayed at one, but we would like to, because they apparently are just very, very kind of luxurious. They're not very expensive, but they're very, very well maintained and very well done. We did spend a day going up to this city northeast of Madrid, about 30 miles. So it's about 30 miles by train, Alcalá de Henares. Wanted to see Cervantes' house, although nobody's really sure exactly which house is where he lived, but this is the best guess where he lived. So I wanted to see that. And this is a city where Spaniards would go for just for a vacation or for a tour, not typically American or other tourists. But it's a delightful little village. I don't know, about 100,000, so it's not really a village, but it has arcades and just a lot of nice, interesting shops to go through and good food and good restaurants. It's a university town. So yeah, bakeries. That's what we need. It's very much a university town. I don't know how many thousands of students there, and so all over the town you see these cartoons that is part of the university, and this is kind of interesting cartoon. Anybody can read, understand any language. That you see the squalid, rainy area, and then education is the key to a better, happier, brighter life. We wouldn't say that we're expert on using this the Spanish train system, but it is a very efficient, very good way to go. This is how we got there. This is the main station in Madrid, Estación Atocha. This is where actually well, that's where the bombing was as part of the invasion of Iraq, when Spain was part of that invasion of Iraq, and they suffered some bombings. But so many different forms of transportation meet here. The metro, buses, there are trains. This is a map of kind of close-in trains that go out to various suburbs, and then you have trains that go longer distance, and then you have high-speed trains. They all focus here.
They're all a different ticket too.
Yeah, you have to go to different places, so it's a little bit confusing where to get the tickets. And so we finally figured that out and bought our tickets to these machines, and then got on the train to go up to Alcalá de Henares. And it was fun. In Malaga itself, this is one of our favorite museums in Malaga. This is called it's a museum of glass, Museo de Vidrio. It's owned by 3 English gentlemen, and every time we go to Malaga, we have to go there because it's just kind of fun to go through their exhibits and just glass artifacts, glass objects from Phoenician times, very ancient. This is thousands of years old, up to more modern collection. This more modern collection. So again, it's just interesting the number of glass items they have. Here's just a collection. Their collection would be worth literally millions and millions of dollars. They have some items that are $50,000 in value. And our guide was, although it's owned by 3 British gentlemen, this was our guide who's Spanish, and he plays the piano, and they had no piano there, so we asked him to give play a little bit. And he did a ovation. And I don't know if this is final, but it's probably a good place to wrap up. But Malaga is fairly close to Gibraltar and also Tangier, so we did day trips to those places. So it's just interesting to go over to Gibraltar and see what it's all about. Valencia, again, all these cities, there's so many little interesting things to do. The markets are they're so clean, and the food is such a variety of food. It just all looks so appetizing. There's also a silk market, that old silk market, interesting columns, museum, historical, or
below ground.
Yeah. And we were walking around, we saw this place that said Museum of Lead. And I thought, well, maybe it's a plumber's museum. It might be interesting to go see a plumber's museum. What it was is lead soldiers. So they had tens of thousands of lead miniature soldiers and dioramas recreating battles. And that's a good place to stop since we're at the end. So open it up for preguntas, questions, and also point out that non-fungible tokens will be available in the lobby after the presentation. You've been following. Minimum is $65.
Oh, at a steal, only 65, not 69 million, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I may have messed up.
Special Saturday discount.
Exactly. All right. So if you got any comments or questions or anything you'd like to ask Bruce and Janice, unmute yourself and ask away.
Who's got one?
Must have.
What is the place right behind you, your screen?
This is the city of Avila, Spain. It's Avila.
Yeah, I was thinking about some of the wild places I'd been, and which one it was.
Yeah.
Been to Avila.
St. Teresa.
Yeah, St. Teresa de Avila. Yeah. Again, as I mentioned earlier, they still have her finger there. You can see her finger.
Oh, the finger. Yeah, got to see the finger. There are some others too that are walled. I couldn't remember which one this was.
Well, many of them are well maintained.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was really interesting. Yeah, I've seen the tourist.
Yeah, great job. Thank you.
We kind of went like the wind. So.
Yeah, there's just so much to talk about. So.
You ate your way through Spain, it looked like.
Yeah, but we did.
That's okay.
Yeah, well, we did a lot of walking. We walked at least 10 miles a day, so we were able to walk it off, fortunately.
Yeah.
And it's all up. It's like we call
It's all uphill, that's right.
It's all up.
So I've got something I want to share real quick. So growing up in San Antonio, they had churros, but they were always really just blah. I didn't like them. Well, these are kind of like donuts in a way, kind of like a
They
cross
are,
between a
yeah.
donut and a beignet. And so this is in Granada at the Bib Rambla restaurant, and they said, oh, hot chocolate. No, it's more like pudding.
Mhm,
It's hot
mhm.
pudding.
It's
Yeah.
hot pudding. And yeah, and so that's what you do is you sit there and you dunk it, and then you just like, oh man, this is incredible.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, yeah.
It
And
was
some
so
of these
good.
places in Malaga and Madrid, these places where you can buy churros and chocolate in the centers where a lot of tourists are and locals, and the lines can be very, very long.
We went to the Museum of Chocolate in Barcelona,
Oh, yeah, okay.
I remember that.
and the ticket to get in was a chocolate bar.
Oh,
You paid your money, and they gave you this chocolate bar, and they scanned it, and then after you got through walking around, as you were walking around, you could eat your chocolate bar.
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, there's just so many little interesting museums and things to see. Yeah.
My book of museums.
Did you find Spain was inexpensive or expensive?
No, actually, we felt that it was fairly inexpensive. Well, for food and lodging, fairly inexpensive. The hotel or the apartment that we stayed at in Malaga, we paid, I think it was like $40 a night for the apartment. It was in central Malaga. So
Okay.
yeah, so lodging is a lot. Well, I wouldn't say that all the hotels are cheap, but the ones that we have found have been very good hotels are
Mhm.
generally not too expensive. Yeah, I guess we stayed in a hotel in Madrid that was close to $200. But we go ahead and buy the breakfast as well, and that's that adds. You have to account for that because it's just easier just to eat breakfast at the hotel. It's a breakfast bar, and it's very good. You have all kinds of fruits and vegetables, well, not vegetables, but fruits and eggs and things like that. So yeah.
Right.
Do
We
you
found
use
when
Rick
we were
Steves
there,
much?
when we were there in 2015, when we would go out to lunch, I don't care what part of Spain we were in, it was like 20, 21, 22, 19, 23 euros for the two of us. And that would include wine. So it was very inexpensive. And the hotels averaged, and we stayed in, just little basic pensions in a really nice place in Cordoba. And they were between, $85 and $100 a night.
Including breakfast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most of them included breakfast.
Luann King has her hand up. She's being nice.
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to be asking the same question that Julia wanted to know. Where did you research to choose your places to stay? Was it Rick Steves or someplace else?
So Google Earth, we just go Google Earth and look for hotels and find ones that were close to the center, and then we go click on the website of each hotel, and we were looking for particular things that they have a Wi-Fi and the breakfast could be included, and the price was not terribly unreasonable. And then for the day trips, I forgot the name of this.
Viator.
Yeah, Viator is an excellent. If you haven't used Viator, it is just an excellent site to find day trips, tours in all the cities around the world.
They subcontract with local people, so they're, helping the local guides and trip people get business, and they're usually very successful. We've been on some tours with them that are a little too large, but usually it's a small group of people which they try and stay. So
What was the name of that tour again? I missed it.
viator.com.
Yeah, VIA?
viator.
Okay,
It's a website, yeah.
Yeah. Whoops.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, yeah.
So you just put in where you want to go and your dates, and that you want hotels or things to do or food or restaurants. And I forget the booking.com. Sometimes it's not bad either, just to find hotels. But we always book straight through the hotel. We don't go through a service because sometimes the hotel or airline doesn't quite get all the money. Or if you book your airline through a service, you may not earn your frequent flyer miles because you didn't book through the airline. So, little.
We haven't used Airbnb, but probably next time we would try to
Mhm.
use an Airbnb because those are very inexpensive as well.
Have you used hostels at all?
No,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
I haven't.
We don't need a 5-star, sometimes even a 4-star hotel, but we do like to have, or an apartment. We want to have in a hotel or an apartment.
The confusion in the language in Spain, hostels can mean, like what we would think of as a youth hostel. It also can be almost a regular hotel as well. So you have to be careful of the language.
Mhm.
Yes,
Marsha has her hand up.
Yeah, question. I had to look up and see what the name of this town was that my daughter and I visited. We were staying in Torremolinos and went to Mijas. It's a little town straight up in the mountains from there. Have you
Oh,
been?
yeah. No, we haven't been there. We've been
That was
wanting
one of the striking little places I'd ever been. It
Yeah.
was really beautiful.
Yeah. We have not been there physically, but there is a walking tour, a virtual walking tour online on YouTube that we went through. It does look like a nice little
Yes.
town. There's lots of virtual tours on YouTube that you can.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out because I thought it was so picturesque. And the view up, the bus had all these switchbacks and you could see the whole coastline, as you got
Yeah.
higher and higher, and it's way up high like Ronda.
I'm afraid watching these walking tours in Spain just makes me
White-
wistful, but yeah.
White villages and yeah,
Oh,
very,
yeah, it's beautiful.
but that, but
Marsha?
I've been to
I
that
have
one.
two little things I wanted to say. We took a transatlantic cruise from Fort Lauderdale to Rome, and we stopped in Malaga. And on the way, we met a couple who were going to Malaga to live in their apartment that they had bought. They had filled their cruise ship stateroom with furniture. So that when they got to Malaga, they got off the cruise ship with all their furniture. I'm like,
Oh my
how can you
gosh.
fit this room? And they said that the cruise line, Holland America, let them do it, and it was cheaper than sending it over by mail.
Oh, I'll bet it
Really?
was. I'll bet it was, yeah.
Plus, they got the cruise. The
Interesting.
second thing was when we stopped in Cadiz, it was a city that we had visited a number of times when we lived near there. And they took us to the Roman ruins. And I said, I don't remember these ruins. We were here for a year. I don't remember them at all. And the guide said, oh, well, we just discovered them in 1980 when we were building a building. And then we went to another city and they took us to all these underground places that had been when they were having their civil war, that the people were living there. And we had never visited that city when we lived there because it had been a military base that was off limits to foreigners and tourists. And so there are things that have opened up in the years that weren't there when we were there before. We did
Yeah.
stay in paradors when we were there before, which are owned
okay.
by the government.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That's why they're inexpensive. They're subsidized.
Yeah.
Some of them are in like old castles,
Mhm.
Yes.
fortresses or something like that. We watch another set of videos and they stayed in one in Cuenca. It was gorgeous, and the history in
They
that
were.
place and the view, beautiful places.
Yeah. There
And
is
they have them
a
in Portugal too.
there is a couple that they're in the tourism industry, but they're out of Madrid, but they have a site called Spain Revealed, and they will have videos of things in Madrid, things to see, and they do and evaluations of tapas bars. So they'll take you to about, it's a virtual tour that you do on YouTube, and they'll go to tapas bars and talk about how good the tapas are. It's a very nice, it's very nicely done
In
to,
English.
in English, that to give you a little bit more information about where you might want to go eat and things you might want to see. And it's just called Spain Revealed.
He's actually from New Zealand, but
Yeah.
she's from Madrid. And they've lived there 10 years now, I guess. And
Yeah.
they're just a fun couple to watch.
I see Joy Huntington coming on from
Houston.
Houston. Hi, Joy.
Yes, and I would put myself up there, but I've been working out in the yard and look like death warmed over. So, hello, everybody. Hi, Isabella.
Joy.
How are you?
Hi, good to see you.
You too. We
Next
were
time.
Morocco tour buddies.
That was the best trip.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We have Marcia from Missouri. And Marcia was with us in New Zealand. You were Mary Latham's roommate, right? At one time?
I
And
think
then you were with Layla in
Cedar
where?
Rapids. Cedar Rapids.
In Cedar Rapids, yeah.
Yeah.
And Joy is from Houston, and Jackie is an old member.
A veteran member.
Yeah,
Recently
I like the word
moved member is in Albuquerque. And do we have anybody else from someplace else?
That's all today. Nobody else out of town, it looks like.
Wow.
So one of the things I was going to say, Luann, one of the things that I did when I went to Spain is, looking at places. So I looked at Rex Steves, I looked at another book, like a Frommer's book or Planet Earth or something like that. So I would look at a couple of different places to see what places showed up consistently across them. So that gives you, if multiple people are giving a thumbs up to it, that's a possibility. But then the other thing that I found, kind of like what Bruce was saying, was, okay, so now you find a place and it reads well and the website looks good. You kind of want to also look to see where it's physically located. And you can use Google Maps and the satellite view. So we found one place in Valencia that everything looked great, but it was on this big main street. And I've stayed on hotels facing big main streets, and the buses and the trucks and everything start at 5 o'clock, and I don't want to get up that early. So that's another little tip I learned, was go to Google Maps or some map program and see where it's physically located and what's around that area. Are there places to eat, or is it just all residential areas? Is it like out in the hinterlands or what? So that's another way to look at it.
Yeah. One of the nice things about Viator is that it will give the ratings. People who have been on the tour will give it ratings. And Viator really presses people to give their evaluation of the tour. And so someplace like Madrid, Madrid and Malaga are, of course, big tourist places, as well as Barcelona. And there are, I don't know, in Madrid and Malaga, there might be 100 different tours, day trips. They're mostly day trips or tapas tours or things like that. So there's just a wide variety, and so you can go look at, okay, do I want to do this or do I want to do that? And you can see the evaluations that people have, how many stars, and a little bit of description of what you're going to see. So
I do actually read the descriptions or the actual text of the reviews, because when we went to Vienna, I read it had good ratings, but one person really hated it. And the reason she hated it was because the doorman had to go park cars, and so he wasn't there to open the door for her when she wanted to go out. And I thought, any hotel that somebody's going to complain about that, I want to stay there because she's not coming again. So it'll only be nice people. So I read the bad reviews too, to see what they're complaining about.
now you see a lot of complaints about how small the bathrooms are.
Well, welcome to Europe.
Yeah, if you go to Central Europe, you're going to have small bathrooms. Or central cities in Europe, you're going to have small bathrooms.
Messed around with it.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording unless anybody's got some really good pressing news that they want recorded for posterity.
Remember to buy your fungible,
Oh, yes, yeah,
tokens.
do I hear 65 million?
Yeah.
65 million going once, twice.
Okay.
I can't talk.